everyone, and welcome to Incident Prevention's Utility Safety Podcast. I'm Kate Wade, the editor of Incident Prevention Magazine, and your host for this episode. Today, I'm sitting down with Scott Francis, technical sales manager for Westex, the Milliken brand, which has been pioneering protective textiles since 1941. In this episode, we'll be talking about what flame-resistant and arc-rated apparel manufacturers are doing these days to support safety professionals in the utility industry. So, without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Scott.
Well, thank you. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, we love that you're here. Before we dive right into things, can you tell me a little bit about your background and what your role is at Westex?
Sure, Kate. I've been around a long time. I've been in the safety industry since the early '90s, and in the FR arc-rated clothing market since 1995. I've been with companies like Bulwark and Aramark, and been with Westex since 2005. So, like I say, I've been around. My main role is the technical sales manager, but I have various roles at Westex. The main one, the technical sales manager, doing a lot of the training for end users and our distributor network, of course. And I'm in charge with doing the webinars and podcasts such as this, of course. And I get on the docket at various safety conferences, state safety, regional conferences, and do presentations on, thermal hazards like arc flash, flash fire, the NFPA standards. Then I also, I have a Midwest territory where I call on end users, because it's always good to get close to the end user, find out, what's working for them, what's not, what, new innovations they're looking to see for PPE and protective, arc-rated flame-resistant clothing. And then I have a set of, a small set of direct customers that actually make the garments, because we're a fabric manufacturer, we're a component ingredient company, so I have some direct customers as well. So that kind of keeps me busy, and that's a little background on what I do for Westex and how long I've been around.
Well, so my understanding is that last month in Texas, Westex, and you were there, hosted safety professionals from a number of U.S.-based oil and gas companies for an event that featured live flash fire demonstrations, speakers, things like that. Can you tell me about the impetus for that event? Like, what prompted Westex to organize it, and what were you hoping to achieve by hosting it?
Well, sure. And, the main impetus for going with the event is that we've done it in the past, and it has been very impactful to end users and safety managers. We've done a flash fire event, but it had been, a few years, before we did it before COVID. And before that, we did arc flash events when NFPA 70E was a big deal on arc flash. We did live arc flash exposure. So it's really a big, impactful event for end users. And we really have three primary reasons for hosting a live event like that, because number one is it's a live event, and seeing live flash fires in person really leaves an impact on the attendees. To witness a thermal event live really leaves one with an impression, and even gives even more respect to the thermal hazard they have in the workplace. So like these arc flash events, they're very loud. You don't realize how loud the arc flash is. The flash fire events, maybe not as loud, but you can see how random where the gas, the propane gas goes. And when it ignites, you can really feel a little bit of the heat going by. Of course, you're at a safe distance, but you can feel that heat. It really gives you a respect for the hazard. And then also when it hits the mannequin that's outfitted in different fabrics, you can really see how the various flame-resistant fabrics, they react in different ways on how they self-extinguish. And of course, non-FR fabrics, after the thermal exposure, the flash fire is left, it continues to burn. So you see that interaction. So number one, seeing something live, it's in your memory. You're not going to forget it. You can see stuff on video, but when you witness it live and you can kind of feel the heat,
it's really experiential. Yeah, it's that experiential kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then number two, at these events, we usually have an excellent speaker, and the speaker is usually a survivor of a thermal exposure. The last event we had Brad Livingston, who survived a flash fire event, and it really brings home the ripple effect for that person involved, their family, their coworkers, and I think it really renews the effort to protect against these thermal hazards, because these hazards can truly be catastrophic and devastating if not mitigated by PPE or other protective measures. So you get that talk from someone that's been in it and they're like, hey, wear the PPE. Don't take the shortcut. Don't make the mistake that I did. So that leaves an impact. And then the final reason, working closely with our partners, we realized there was an appetite in the FR market to better understand what materials were going into their programs and why, and to see if there was room for improvement in both protection and comfort. So there's a lot of science involved in making FR fabrics. We wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit to share some of the technical details and considerations when you're looking into FR fabrics, not only in terms of protection on the mechanisms on how they self-extinguish, because there's different fabrics. They may work in the gas phase, they may work in the solid phase, and we carry all those, but it's very interesting. But not only in terms of protection, but comfort. How can they improve their comfort in terms of lighter weight fabric that's still going to meet the arc ratings that you need, and the air perm and the moisture management? Because really, if you really think about it, comfort equals protection. If the fabric or the PPE is too stiff, scratchy, heavy, how's it going to protect if it sits on the work cart or in the truck or in the locker? So at the end of the day, comfort equals protection. Those are the two key things. And as a material supplier, we're really in a unique position that we can focus 100% on education. Our goal at the end of the day was to make sure every safety manager who came to the event left feeling empowered and more confident in the decisions they're making regarding their organization's PPE program.
Well, so you touched on an interesting point, and it kind of leads into my next question. I was reading this press release from a couple of months ago about a survey that had been conducted, and more than a third of the survey respondents indicated that lack of information and training was their biggest barrier to adopting new technologies within PPE. So given that, how do FRAR companies like Westex ensure that end users have all the correct information and training that they need to stay safe in their clothing?
Well, it's not surprising. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of competing companies talking about it, and as I mentioned, there's a lot of science involved in the development of flame-resistant arc-rated PPE. And of course, we're a component company. We make the fabric, and the fabric is one of the first decisions you need to make if you're putting together a flame-resistant clothing program. What fabric is going to work for you, or it can be more than one fabric, and then you got to make a garment decision, and then you got to figure out a service provider to get the appropriate clothing and PPE on the worker's back. But as a fabric manufacturer, it's our responsibility to remove the mystery surrounding different fabric lines. We're trying to be diligent and with customers one-on-one, providing specifics about our fabric and what technical details they employ and what standards they're going to meet and so far. So, do they meet the standards? Are they guaranteed flame resistant for the life of the fabric? Those are some of the key things for protection. Then you got to talk about comfort. But, as far as the standards are concerned, we're proud to be very up to date as an organization on all the industry standards that impact the thermal hazard marketplace, like standards like ASTM and NFPA. And, there's various changes to those. So we really try to make sure we communicate these changes to the end user safety people, as well as to the supply chain, like the garment manufacturers, because they have contacts that they can spread that as well. So these events are an example of how we're working to proactively educate safety managers on some of the new technologies coming down the pipeline, not only in terms of protection, but of course, in terms of improved comfort. And the way to do that is have them do a wear test. And here's why you might want to look at this, because it's got some improved moisture management, because as I mentioned earlier, comfort equals protection.
Well, yeah, absolutely. If it's not comfortable, people aren't going to wear it, and then that's when injuries can happen. Well, so and I'm also curious about cost, because that press release I was referring to, the survey said that people's second greatest barrier to adopting new PPE is cost. And so I'm curious how Westex approaches that. how does the company balance the costs of designing and manufacturing the fabric while also ensuring that it meets the highest safety standards, while also not, putting the bill solely at the foot of the end user, who's going, oh my God, this is very expensive. How do we fit this into our budget?
Yeah, yeah. Well, cost is always a consideration. And
Mhm.
and of course that usually solves itself. Of course, Westex, like most companies, like most manufacturers, guess what? They have competitors. And competition, right, keeps costs down or makes prices more competitive in the marketplace. So competition is good from a cost standpoint. It keeps everybody in check. And also, what is the competition? It drives innovation. So you
Mhm.
get better products at a competitive price. So cost is always a concern. The competitive landscape usually takes care of that. So that's kind of the key thing there. Well, we'll never take a shortcut on the standards. We're a well-known FR graded fabric manufacturer, so we're not going to compromise on safety. There's no shortcuts. We're going to do the standards correctly, make sure they meet the appropriate standards, and all of our FR Westex branded FR fabrics are guaranteed flame resistant for the life of the garment. Again, the caveat being that they're cared for properly. No
Mhm.
beach fabric softener and stuff like that. So, we're well known. We're not taking any shortcuts. The big players, big customers utilize our fabrics because they trust us, and they don't want anything to come back to them. But so that would be one of the key ones there that I would say. Our materials, they go through some of the highest levels of testing, as I mentioned, of certification. Some of the key ones that are used, they're NFPA 2112 certified for flash fire. Now, of course, the garment manufacturer has to do some things to make the garment NFPA 2112 certified, but we've got many of our fabrics are 2112 certified. So again, we're not the only part, but the fabric is the biggest part of the garment. So we try to communicate how important the FR fabric brand, because without the FR fabric, you just got some Nomex thread and some melamine buttons, maybe some zippers. So the fabric is the main thing. And most of these ASTM and these test methods are fabric based. When you talk about NFPA 2112, for flash fire, the big thing is the fabric. Is the fabric going to have a percent body burn less than 50% at 3 seconds? That's the big one that people look at. And if it's not less than 50%, if it's over 50%, it's a non-starter. It's not 2112 certified. So the fabric is the big thing. And it always really comes down to a customer's needs. We have a broad range of products in our portfolio. We've got char-based, cotton-rich fabrics that are char formers, and they tend to be less expensive. We've got your aramids, which are thermally stable, like your Nomex. Those are thermally stable. Those are more expensive up front, but they're very durable. And then some of these blends are in the middle in terms of cost, but they're deemed to be lighter and more comfortable. So bottom line is we've got different portfolio of fabrics that we believe we can address, every hazard that you have, thermal hazard, I'm talking about, of course, any kind of pain point and budget. There's different fabrics to fit that. So the other key thing here is the truth of the matter is there's more competition out there, which of course keeps costs down. But again, there's some offshore and copycat options out there that are infiltrating the market. So it's important as ever for the end user to do their due diligence and do their research. And we believe once they've done their research, we believe that they will select a fabric supplier with a long history of American manufacturing excellence. And that would be one of us. And we have some competitors that are here in the States as well.
Very good. That was a lot of information and very helpful. One of the other things I wanted to ask was just what other educational resources does Westex offer to its customers to ensure that they have everything they need to effectively run the clothing program at their organization?
Well, we really pride ourselves as being, Westex, a Milliken brand. We are educators. We really pride ourselves in being partners, if you will, the safety managers. In addition to holding, small group events like this end user event in Texas with the live flash fire demo, we do a lot of these regional safety conferences where we exhibit at these conferences and show and talk to end users on what's new. And that's a great way to interact with them. And then also we have a lot of stuff online on our website. We've got some really good stuff. Basically, these resource centers that have a lot of the information on case studies. Of course, there's care and maintenance guys if they're confused on how to take care of it. And then we have some excellent videos, not only product videos, but hazard awareness videos, like the ones that are used out there still today when they've been around for a while are these arc flash hazard awareness videos where you have a mannequin outfitted in different garment ensembles next to a panel. It arcs, and then the arc is 1/10 of a second. And how does the garment do? If it's flame resistant, it self-extinguishes. If it's cotton, it continues to burn. People are visual. So when they see it, like a mannequin outfitted in cotton in front of a panel board, it arcs 1/10 of a second, and the mannequin's ablaze because it's wearing cotton. Cotton is fuel. Then people get the picture. Hey, we can't wear cotton. Where the FR stuff, it self-extinguishes. We have flash fire videos as well, similar to what we've done at the live demo. So those are really impactful. So I think those are some of the ways that we really, help the end user out there as far as educators. And, that's kind of our goal as a component company. We'd love you to use our fabrics, right? But there's other options out there, but here's why you need to use it. Here's why, if you don't, here are the consequences for not wearing PPE. So make sure you trust it and that it's comfortable, that it's going to be worn consistently.
Well, so I think we've covered a lot here today. All really helpful information. Before we close out this episode of the podcast, is there anything else that you feel it's important to share with our listeners?
Yeah, Kate, finally, I would say, really at the end of the day, PPE is really about trust. Is the PPE going to perform at the moment of the truth? The moment of the truth being the thermal exposure. Is the garment going to self-extinguish after the thermal exposure? Because there's fabrics out there that the FR washes out. It's not guaranteed for the life of the fabric. So number one is about trust. Is it going to perform at the moment of truth? And number two, do you trust that the FR arc-rated clothing, the PPE, will be worn correctly and consistently? Remember, comfort equals protection. Can't help if they're going to, put it on the work cart or roll up the sleeves and unbutton the shirt. What do you got here? Exposed cotton. Ignite.
Yep.
If they're hot, so is it comfortable? Do a wear test. Do yourself a favor. Do a wear test. Determine what is going to be acceptable so that people buy in. We want to encourage safety managers to ask questions. There is so much more that goes into selecting the right PPE for your employees than simply finding a garment that meets the standards. Hey, it might meet the standards, but it might be stiff as a board or scratchy as heck. Good luck for getting people to wear that. Asking questions of your garment provider, your flame-resistant fabric manufacturer, and giving context to the situations your crew faces is going to help you make sure you're building not only a program that protects, but a program that your workers really love.
Scott, thank you so much for all your time today. We really appreciate it. As a reminder to our listeners, if anyone has questions for Scott, we've posted his contact information on our website at utilitysafety.podbean.com. And you can also visit Westex's website at westex.com. Until next time, stay safe and be well.
Howdy, partners. The IP Utility Safety Conference is hightailing into Dallas, Texas this October 22nd through the 24th. Register today at utilitysafetyconference.com.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Utility Business Media and its employees. It is strongly recommended that you discuss any actions or policy changes with your company management prior to implementation.